Ancient scriptures speak of otherworldly beings descending from the heavens, forging giant hybrid offspring with humans. Modern witnesses describe tall, ethereal aliens, imparting wisdom or conducting uncanny experiments. Is it possible these accounts are threads of the same cosmic story? In this deep dive, we explore the mysterious connections between the Nephilim of biblical lore, reports of Nordic aliens in the UFO era, and claims of secret bloodlines carrying otherworldly DNA. We'll sift through ancient texts, fringe theories, and whistleblower testimonies in cinematic detail. Welcome to the Drip System, where hidden knowledge drips into the light. Chapter 1: Watchers, Nephilim, and Ancient Hybrid Beings. In the book of Genesis, a brief and cryptic passage describes how the sons of God took human wives and fathered the Nephilim, mighty men of old. Later, Jewish apocrypha like 1 Enoch greatly expand this story. A group of 200 heavenly watchers are said to have lusted after human women and defected from the divine mission. Led by a figure named Semyasa, these watchers descended to Earth atop Mount Hermon according to legend and taught humanity forbidden arts, from weaponsmithing to sorcery, in an act of illicit guidance. Their half-human offspring were the Nephilim, described as giant hybrids who savaged the Earth and brought early mankind to the brink of ruin. Eventually, God intervenes with a great flood to purge these giants, while the rebellious watchers are bound in darkness, awaiting judgment. This dramatic saga, though omitted from the canonical Bible, appears in multiple sources. The Dead Sea Scrolls, the Book of Jubilees, and other writings from around the 2nd to 1st century BCE all portray the Nephilim as monstrous giant offspring of fallen angels and humans. Even certain Gnostic texts echo this theme of divine beings corrupting human bloodlines. For example, Apostasis of the Archons depicts malevolent archons attempting to assault Eve and her daughters to spawn their own lineage. In these ancient narratives, the blood agenda of the Watchers or Archons is clear. By mixing their seed with humanity, they sought to manipulate evolution and set themselves up as gods over mankind. The Nephilim, called the mighty men of old, men of renown in Genesis, may reflect ancient heroes and demigods of myth, now recast as the byproduct of an unholy union. Chapter 2: Bloodlines of the Gods. From pharaohs to secret dynasties. After the flood, the idea of divine or non-human bloodlines did not disappear. It went underground, woven into the lore of kings and conquerors. Every society has myths of gods mating with mortals to birth legendary leaders. The ancient pharaohs of Egypt, for instance, were often regarded as literal sons of gods. Each new pharaoh traditionally sired by Amun or Ra in spiritual union with the queen. Such claims weren't mere piety. They served to legitimize the ruler's authority as divine right. In Sumer and Babylon, kings traced their lineage to sky gods and demigods. Even Alexander the Great was rumored to be the son of Zeus in some traditions, and he famously sought to prove his own semi-divine status. Many European royal bloodlines cultivated legends of otherworldly origin. The Merovingian dynasty of medieval Frankish kings is a prime example. According to one 7th century chronicle, the founder Merovius was born after his mother encountered a fantastical creature from the sea, the Quinotaur, described as a beast of Neptune that impregnated the queen by force. In other words, the Merovingians' very family legend claimed a half-human, half-bestial progenitor, implying supernatural blood. Some scholars note the Quinotaur myth may encode pagan symbolism, but later sensational writers took it quite literally. But who knows? Fast forward to modern fringe lore, and the Merovingian line takes on even more mystique. Works like Holy Blood, Holy Grail speculated they carried the blood of Jesus, while alternative theorists linked them further back to the Nephilim. or even extraterrestrials. Indeed, conspiracy researchers often assert that elite lineages around the world share a hidden otherworldly ancestry. One prominent theory, popularized by author David Icke, posits that a reptilian alien strain runs in the blood of old aristocratic and banking families. A concept symbolic of their cold-blooded power, but some take it quite literally. An often cited claim is that this bloodline includes the extraterrestrial human hybrids who ruled Sumer, Babylon, Greece and Troy, and which today rule the world. In other words, all the way from Nimrod and pharaohs to Europe's monarchs and even US presidents. A single occult lineage has allegedly steered global events, kept pure through carefully arranged marriages. While mainstream historians soundly reject such sweeping genealogical connections, it's striking how many cultures embrace the concept that rulers are set apart by blood. Whether labeled children of the sun, dragons, or starborn, the trope persists. Modern insiders from the UFO disclosure community add an intriguing twist to the bloodline narrative. Corey Goode, for instance, has reported that current Cabal families, sometimes dubbed the 13 Illuminati bloodlines, believe themselves to be descendants of extraterrestrials, a story supposedly fed to them to justify their rule. He claims these elites were told they inherit the mantle of ancient ET gods, found in Antarctic ruins, though Goode personally doubts the truth of that ancestry. The divine right to rule in this telling is nothing less than a cosmic hoax, or so they say. Yet the fact such ideas circulate among real-world power brokers is tantalizing. Today's kings and kingmakers merely play acting as demigods, or could a kernel of the Watcher's agenda truly live on in certain family trees? The question hangs, tinged with both skepticism and wonder. Chapter 3. The Nordic Aliens. Modern-day Watchers. Moving from ancient lore to the UFO age. Reports of tall, human-like Nordic aliens began surfacing in the 20th century that uncannily mirror the benevolent Watchers of legend. Nordic is the term ufologists gave to beings typically described as 6 to 7 feet tall, with slender yet athletic builds, piercing blue eyes, and long blonde hair. Essentially an idealized Scandinavian appearance. Unlike the more famous grey aliens, Nordics look almost perfectly human, albeit often more graceful or beautiful than us. Those who claim encounters with Nordics frequently remark on the being's mesmerizing presence and telepathic communication. In UFO literature, Nordics are often cast as compassionate observers or guides. They watch humanity, sometimes give cryptic warnings about our future, and exhibit concern for our well-being and the planet. It's no surprise that early witnesses nicknamed them Space Brothers. Their demeanor is almost angelic. One of the first publicized contactees was George Adamski in the 1950s. Adamski claimed that in 1952 he met a man from Venus named Orthon in the California desert, a handsome, long-haired figure who spoke via telepathy and conveyed messages about nuclear disarmament and peace. Adamski's stories were met with both fascination and ridicule, but he was not alone for long. Throughout the 50s and 60s, a wave of contactees, especially in Europe and in the US, reported similar meetings with benevolent blonde extraterrestrials. They often said these visitors hailed from Pleiades, Aldebaran, or other star systems, and that they were here to spiritually uplift humanity or gently warn us of dangers. Professor Stephanie Kelly Romano, who studied abduction mythologies, noted that among believers, Nordic aliens are associated with spiritual growth and love, and tend to act as protectors for those who they encounter. In short, Nordics occupy the archetype of watchful guardians, resonating with how ancient people might have viewed kindly angels or demigods. Not all Nordic encounters have been friendly meet and greets, however. Some emerge in the abduction lore as well. Famous abductee Travis Walton, who was taken aboard a UFO in 1975, described encountering two types of beings. The first were short grey creatures, but later he was approached by tall human-looking figures. a male and a female with golden hair and intense eyes, who placed a mask over his face before he lost memory. Walton's case, made into the film Fire in the Sky, hinted that perhaps a Nordic faction was working alongside the smaller Greys. In other cases, witnesses say a Nordic will be present during medical examinations as a calming figure or overseer. The late 1960s Betty Andreessen case and others like it included descriptions of a tall, fair being guiding the experiencer through bizarre otherworldly environments. Some researchers speculate these luminous humans might be models or fronts that certain ET groups use to interact with us, knowing we'd respond more positively to a familiar face. During the Cold War era, military personnel also reported encounters. In the 1960s, Airman Charles Hall was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada and later claimed he had frequent contact with a group of pale, tall extraterrestrials he nicknamed Tall Whites. According to Hall, these beings had a base in the desert and cooperated with the US Air Force to some extent, an arrangement kept top secret. His detailed accounts published in Millennial Hospitality describe the Tall Whites as similar to Nordics, adult males over 6 feet, female taller yet, but with somewhat larger eyes and very chalk white skin, adapted to a different star's light. Hall's incredible story suggests a long-standing liaison between at least one Nordic-like species and elements of our government. By the late 20th century, the grey aliens had become the ubiquitous pop culture image of extraterrestrials, and reports of Nordic contactees waned somewhat. Still, they never vanished. In fact, Nordics often pop up in whistleblower testimony and New Age channel teachings into the 2000s, but more on that soon. Their portrayal remains strikingly consistent. They are usually cast as elder siblings of humanity, watching, guiding, occasionally scolding, and sometimes as key members of a galactic federation of benevolent species. UFO lore commonly asserts that Nordics occupy high ranks in a galactic council that keeps the malicious aliens in check. If the Watchers of Enoch were fallen and meddled in human affairs, the Nordics of today's mythos might be seen as those who didn't fall, those who continued to observe a prime directive of non-interference until perhaps now. Chapter 4: Whistleblowers and the Galactic Gene Agenda. Alleged secret space program participant Randy Kramer claims to have served in the covert Mars Defense Force, an off-world military unit protecting human colonies from alien threats. His story, though unverified, aligns with others who insist that breakaway human civilizations and extraterrestrial alliances have been operating beyond Earth for decades. In recent years, a number of self-proclaimed insiders and whistleblowers have come forward with testimony that ties together threats of genetics, cosmic politics, and humanity's spiritual future. Their accounts are as fantastical as ancient myth, yet they are presented in the language of modern conspiracy and even government projects. Let's look at a few of the notable figures and their claims. William Tompkins, a veteran aerospace engineer, worked for Douglas Aircraft and Navy Intelligence in the 1950s and 60s. In his book Selected by Extraterrestrials, Tompkins reveals that during the height of the Cold War, mysterious Nordic secretaries were placed in his think tank team, ostensibly normal young women, but whom he later came to believe were ETs in human guise. These Nordics, he claimed, telepathically assisted engineers in designing advanced spacecraft and even naval battle groups for space. Tompkins said they were helping the good guys on Earth, the US Navy in this case, to counteract a Draco-reptilian threat infiltrating aerospace programs. In other words, at least since the mid-20th century, certain aliens have been actively steering human technological development, picking which bloodline or nation to boost in the geopolitical chess game. Corey Good, a self-described participant in multiple secret space programs or SSPs from the 1980s to 2000s. Good's testimony featured in the series Cosmic Disclosure is sweeping. He asserts that around 60 different human-like ET races have been interacting with humanity, some openly in the past and now mostly covertly. According to Good, these groups formed a super federation that managed 22 distinct genetic programs on Earth, essentially long-term experiments tweaking human DNA and societal growth. This harks back uncannily to the Watchers playing God with early humanity. He claims these ET factions, sometimes cooperating, sometimes competing, have been tinkering with us for nearly 500,000 years, occasionally causing cataclysms to reset the stage. Notably, Good says we are now nearing the culmination of those programs. He speaks of an imminent ascension event, triggered by a cyclical solar flash, which will dramatically raise human consciousness. Benevolent ETs, including blue-skinned avian beings and various Nordics, are allegedly here to guide humanity through this transition, much like prophetic angels. Good even analogizes some of his experiences to the role of Enoch or other mediators in cosmic conflicts. His message is ultimately one of empowerment, that after a final period of upheaval, humans will graduate to join a wider galactic community once we overcome our would-be occult overlords. Elena Danan, a former archaeologist turned contactee who claims ongoing face-to-face interaction with members of a galactic federation of worlds. Danan's book, for example, A Gift from the Stars, and interviews describe a vast alliance of civilizations, many of them humanoid and even Nordic in appearance, which have been intervening recently to ensure humanity's survival and sovereignty. She recounts being contacted by a Pleiadian Nordic named Thor Han, who introduced her to various ET races and showed her scenes of conflict in our solar system. Notably, Elena reports that in 2021, the Galactic Federation liberated Earth's moon and Mars from malevolent control, expelling a German breakaway colony and their Draco allies, and handed these facilities back to human authorities. This implies that right now there is a behind-the-scenes power shift in favor of the benevolent ETs. Danan sources likewise emphasize a spiritual awakening aspect. They speak of humans' innate psychic abilities and the importance of our DNA, much of which is labeled junk by science, in truth being a rich inheritance from numerous ET species. A narrative paints the Nordics, like the Pleiadians, as elder kin who seeded Earth in ancient times and are returning to help us remember who we are. It's a much more positive spin on the idea of an alien bloodline. Here, all humans carry a spark of star lineage, destined to blossom as we enter a new cosmic age. Across these accounts, a common theme emerges: genetics and destiny. Whistleblowers like Good and Danan assert that human DNA is a prize and a project, coveted by some ET groups, safeguarded by others. The idea of chosen ones or special bloodlines is reframed not so much as kings anointed to rule, but as individuals awakened to higher potential. Abductees who once felt victimized by hybridization experiments are now reframed by some New Age circles as starseeds, souls who volunteer to incarnate with extraterrestrial genetics to help elevate humanity's vibration. It's a heady blend of science fiction and spirituality. One could say the Nephilim agenda has evolved from breeding literal giants to activating consciousness on a mass scale. Yet curiously, it still involves those elusive Watchers or Nordics in the background, pulling cosmic strings and appearing in our skies at pivotal moments. From the Watchers descending on Mount Hermon to the Nordics observed in glowing starships, the narrative arc is both eerie and awe-inspiring. Are these really the same beings across time? Angels, aliens, whatever we call them, guiding and misguiding us by turns? Ancient texts warned that mingling with these sons of God produced monsters and chaos, while modern testimonies suggest a more hopeful collaboration to come. Perhaps the truth involves a bit of both: a long, turbulent experiment in hybridization and knowledge, a bloodline agenda that has woven through human history like hidden threat. What's undeniable is how persistently these themes recur in our collective consciousness. Giants and demigods in antiquity, secret genealogies of divine kings, blonde space brothers and cosmic federations in the UFO age. The story keeps adapting, but it never dies. We are left with tantalizing possibilities. Did a race of beings set themselves up as gods over mankind long ago? And do their descendants walk among us still? Cloaked in power? Are the tall aliens reported by credible witnesses our watchers and teachers, nudging us away from the brink or towards some agenda of their own? As we stand at the cusp of official UAP disclosures and scientific gene editing breakthroughs, these fringe ideas edge closer to plausibility. For now, we have fragments, ancient scriptures, modern encounters, and whispered secrets from insiders. Individually, each is easy to dismiss, but taken together, they form a picture that is difficult to ignore. The Nephilim, the Nordics, and the Bloodline agenda invites us to imagine that we are not merely the product of evolution or divine creation, but of an eons-long dialogue and sometimes battle between humanity and those who came from the stars. It's a mystery at once terrifying and inspiring. As always, keep your eyes on the skies and your mind open. The drip of disclosure continues, and the next chapter of this saga is waiting to be written. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and until next time, thank you for watching The Drip System. Bye.